I'm Jonathan Evans.
And I'm Ashley Thompson.
This is VOA News via remote. I'm Joe Palca. Officials in Afghanistan said today at least 9 young students were killed and 4 wounded when an explosive remnant of war accidentally detonated outside of a school in eastern Nangarhar province. The provincial governor's office said in a statement that the incident at Lalpur district occurred when an old mortar shell in possession of a corn cellar exploded as he tried to remove the dust from it. He was also believed to be among the dead. International studies have consistently ranked Afghanistan as one of the most landmined and unexploded ordnance-impacted countries in the world. Senior U.S. and Russian officials are formally launching special talks on strategic stability as part of a flurry of diplomatic activity in Europe this week. Jackie Quinn has more from Associated Press.
Special talks on strategic stability are underway in Geneva, although a Russian leader termed them, quote, difficult. Russia's deputy foreign minister and his delegation visited the U.S. diplomatic mission for face-to-face talks with Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman. Yesterday, Secretary of State Antony Blinken said both sides are airing their concerns.
The question really now is whether President Putin will take the path of diplomacy and dialogue or seeks confrontation.
But on ABC's This Week with George Stephanopoulos, Blinken said there are no easy answers.
When Russia has a gun to the head of Ukraine with 100,000 troops near its borders.
Moscow wants a guarantee from NATO that it will no longer expand eastward into former Soviet states like Ukraine. I'm Jackie Quinn.
The authorities in Kazakhstan said today that nearly 8,000 people were detained by police during protests that descended into violence last week and marked the worst unrest the former Soviet nation has faced since gaining independence 30 years ago. This is VOA News. A court in Myanmar sentenced ousted leader Aung San Suu Kyi to 4 more years in prison today after finding her guilty of illegally importing and possessing walkie-talkies and violating coronavirus restrictions. Suu Kyi was convicted last month on 2 other charges and given a 4-year prison sentence, which was then halved by the head of the military-installed government. The cases are among about a dozen brought against the 76-year-old Nobel Peace Prize laureate since the Army seized power last February, ousting her elected government and arresting top members of her National League for Democracy party. All told, if found guilty of all the charges, she would be sentenced to more than 100 years in prison. Forces loyal to Yemen's internationally recognized government have reclaimed large swaths of territory from the Iranian-backed Houthi rebels amid intensified fighting. Fighters from the Giants Brigade's militia, backed by the Saudi-led coalition, were seen in the center of Aliyah City on Saturday after pushing into the southern province of Shabwa. The push in Shabwa came amid heavy airstrikes by the Saudi-led coalition, battling the Houthis elsewhere in Yemen, including the capital of Sana'a. New York City fire officials say a malfunctioning space heater sparked a fire that filled a high-rise Bronx apartment building with smoke, killing 19 people. The victims of the Sunday morning fire included 9 children. It's the city's deadliest blaze in 3 decades. Fire Commissioner Daniel Nigro said the firefighters found victims on every floor, many in cardiac and respiratory arrest. Mayor Eric Adams praised firefighters who he said had continued making rescues from the 19-story building even after their air supplies ran out.
Their oxygen tanks were empty and they still pushed through the smoke. You can't do this if you don't feel attached to the city and this community. And I really want to thank them for putting their lives on the line to save lives.
Survivors told of fleeing in panic through darkened hallways, barely able to breathe. An Australian judge has reinstated tennis star Novak Djokovic's visa, which was canceled last week because he is unvaccinated. Circuit Court Judge Anthony Kelly also ordered the government to release Djokovic from a Melbourne hotel quarantine within 30 minutes of his decision. The Australian government canceled the visa shortly after Djokovic arrived in Melbourne last week. Via remote, Joe Palca, VOA News.